Welcome anybody who might be joining us and my co-hosts, Karen Gatrinik. How are you today?
I'm fantastic.
I
Thank
know,
you, Lee.
I
How
know
about you?
I'm fabulous, and it's because of your shirt. It says "Have a good day," so I've decided I'm going to.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Okay, so today we're talking about chapter. What chapter is this? Six, isn't it? Or is it? No, it's five. Chapter five
Chapter 5.
on abundance tuning, and its title is Higher Self. Now, this is a lesson I learned actually a long, long time ago now from Bob Proctor, but I know we'll talk about a little bit here, but I know Napoleon Hill actually in specialized knowledge mentioned the idea of our using our higher faculties. And that's what these are. They're your higher faculties, and there's six of them, and we're going to go through them. Uh, they're basically, well, there's imagination, intuition, your will, memory, reason, and perception. Now, is there anything that pops in your mind before we get too far into this? Good afternoon, whoever's there with us. Can't see the name, unfortunately, but there is actually a link that you can click and it'll allow us to see your name if somebody is watching. So anyway, somebody just said good afternoon to us. So good afternoon back.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. So go ahead, Karen. I was just curious, like, is there something that sticks out in your mind when you think of this particular chapter?
Yeah, this is a very a fascinating chapter, one of my favorites, like every chapter. But this chapter is really, really great if you understand it, what happens in common with your higher self. So uh, this is when you give things up to the universe.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yeah.
higher self is something that leads you all the way, and you can't control it because if you want to control something in your outer world, you are in control.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first that pops up in my mind, because the higher self is a part within everybody, and everybody has the higher self and can use it, but most of the people don't know about it. The higher self is something when you give all the things up. That's for me the most important part. And when you are lead it, when the higher self leads you to the solution. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the solution exists already, but the higher self
Yeah.
is something much more than we sometimes realize. And a part of the higher self is the imagination. The imagination is you can, everybody can create the life he wants to live, he or she wants to live. Everyone can have the dream life. We can create everything. We just have to dive into the imagination. If you have the
Yeah,
picture in the mind,
imagination can be your enemy too, right?
yes, of course, it's always a question, what are you focusing on?
Exactly, right.
Most of the people focus on the part what doesn't work out. They go through the worst scenario. What can happen if it doesn't go the way I want it to be?
Yeah. Focusing
What could
on,
happen? Yeah.
if you have a job and they tell you that you only got 2 more months left and we're going to have to lay you off, and well, your imagination is going to go, oh my God, what am I going to do? When you could be using your imagination to find some kind of an alternative, maybe even create something, right? So I thought I'd just read some of this here. So it starts out, this level of awareness comes from understanding the mind and translating deep understandings of the universe, a knowledge that will take you on a trip within yourself and will not matter who you are. Goes on a little bit farther down. It says it does not matter where you are beginning. You can gain the understanding and awareness to tune into the abundant life that you are seeking. So that's the benefit of understanding these higher faculties. And again, I learned this from Bob Proctor quite a while back. And when he taught that to me, it was probably the very first time I even heard it. And I think you're going to find it, if anybody's watching us or anybody's also studying this book, uh, it's not talked about. And yet it's so important. And that's the strange thing. Like even like I already mentioned, Napoleon Hill talked about your higher faculties. This is what he's talking about. We've been doing the Think and Grow Rich series on Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern. And we did, specialized knowledge. And that's where he talks about them, using your higher faculties, and that all these wonderful, wealthy people have done that. So this is a chapter that, again, if you're following along, I suggest that you read it several times, because you're not going to get it the first time.
Yeah.
It takes time to really understand it, because, again, we have these higher faculties. They're gifts that were given to us by our creator. And yet most people don't even know they exist. But, we go on to say here that we can ask a 5-year-old what their 5 physical senses are, and he or she will very quickly rattle off that they can see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. Right. Well, we all know about our 5 senses, but when it comes time to understand the higher side of our nature, our spiritual, intellectual parts, most of us do not recognize that we simultaneously live on 3 planes of existence. We are spiritual beings, number 1, and we have been gifted with an intellect, number 2, and we live in a physical body. So the connection between our physical world and our spiritual world is our intellect. Okay? And it goes on to say here, you and I have been gifted with 6 intellectual faculties. So it's important to understand it. And on the next page, I talk about Napoleon Hill again, where in specialized knowledge. And the thing here is that I also want to point out the fact that we've already said it, is that basically your average person really has no idea about these 6 intellectual faculties, which again, I think that it's very important to understand, because it's these intellectual faculties that are going to allow you to tune into the abundance that we're seeking, right? The life that you really truly want. They really help you design the life that you really truly want to have. And understanding your 6 intellectual faculties is probably the most essential information that you're ever going to have, or ever going to gather. So you already started talking about imagination. And again, this is, imagination is definitely something you want to really have a really good understanding of. We think that we understand it. But the problem is we spend most of our time imagining what could go wrong. And then we wonder why it shows up. Right. So it says here, imagination is one of our higher faculties that everyone uses, but unfortunately used in the wrong way far too often. This tremendous mental faculty frequently takes people off to a place they do not want or need to go through worry and fear. And that's, again, we have a tendency to live our lives in that fight or flight type of mindset, which is that worry and that fear. Walter was explaining it one day about the idea of the lizard brain. It's fight or flight. That's, even like, you've got a dog and horses and a couple of cats, and, they seem like they're thinking, they do, like things, obviously they feel the energy and vibration, they feel that love, but the reality is they're still in fight or flight mode. Like if a predator were to come along, they're going to run, they're going to hide. Well, unfortunately, we do the same thing, but we've been gifted with these higher faculties, which, again, like, your horses, Pepper and Cheyenne, isn't it? Is that what it is? The horses?
Yeah, right? Exactly.
And Malibu's the dog, and I don't remember the cats' names.
Yeah, Jimmy and Speedy.
Right. So it's important that, when we learn that we can use it for everything we want in life, this is imagination we're talking about again here, our whole world changes at that particular moment. When you think about when we were kids, we lived in a land of a free imagination. We're all playing around, acting like we're, pointing out here that, you could be focusing on, being a firefighter or a ballerina or something along those lines. And the sad part is, once we get into school, we get told to stop imagining things, like stop daydreaming. Would you pay attention? And now they want you to just simply focus on whatever they're telling you. And then that's the end of it right there. When we're born, we have this imagination going on, and we should be encouraging that. Right. And this is where all the dreams are born. And then we go to school, and the sad part is they take it away from us.
Yeah.
And then you get these kids who they can't stop their imagination, and well, they're the troubled kids.
Yeah.
They get into trouble. They get sent to detention. They get sent home. They're told they can't come back to school for a few days because they won't pay attention.
Yeah.
I think we need to have a school where we can just get people to imagine whatever they want and encourage it. Let's think of what we could change, right? Well, it says here, realize that everything we can see has been created twice. First as a thought before it became a thing in this realm of imagination where you are an image maker. Right?
Yeah.
So, if you want to have an successful business, well, you have to imagine it that way. And then, we've talked about, the idea of having faith and, belief and things like that. Again, that's even part of the Think and Grow Rich that we talk about on Thursdays. There's a whole chapter on faith. So you can use your imagination, but you got to believe that it's coming because it's already here. Right?
Yeah. And I think it's much more important to feel it, to really feel it. When you sit down and you imagine your new life and your new self, then you have to be that person and don't watch on the scene from outside as an observer. You are the person in the movie, and that's so important. I think we should put much more focus on the emotions, because most people look at that, but yeah, how you said, they don't believe it. But if you put yourself in the scene of the movie, what's happening right now, then you can train your body. And that's the point. You have to train your body to the emotion. I remember when Bob Proctor said, "Do you think I believe everything I tell myself? Do you think I believe that I can reach every goal from the first day on? No, I have to train my body and I have to train my emotion." And I think most people use the imagination and the creation and the higher self by default. They create by default. They don't use the higher self and all the faculties on purpose. They use it, but they don't know what they are doing.
Yeah.
So because if the people focus on what's going wrong and what could happen, the worst scenario, then they feel the fear, and that's what's showing up in your reality.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest problem from most of the people, that they don't look at the circumstance they live right now, that they don't look at that what they created in the past. It should be much more exciting for the people to feel the new life.
Yeah.
You
Get emotionally involved with it. Right? Goes back to, you're talking about reality. That's chapter 1 in the book. And we talk about the fact that you are causing whatever reality you have.
Yeah.
And again, you're talking about getting your body and emotion moving and stuff like that. We have to understand that we're conditioned. We have what we refer to as paradigms, which are a multitude of habits. So if you're in the habit of imagining what could go wrong, it's going to go wrong. And then you're not going to take the action to make it right because you've already convinced yourself that it's going to go wrong. And most people don't realize that they're using their imagination all the time.
Yeah.
But for the wrong reasons. So again, if we combine kind of what we're talking about now with chapter 1 on reality and understanding that we're responsible for whatever's going on in our world, good or bad, well, then you can start to understand that your imagination is probably leading you in the wrong direction if things aren't the way you want them to be. But we can sit down and we can imagine whatever we truly want and understand it's already here. It's not like something you got to sit back and wait for it. No, it's already here. If it's not in your life, it's only because you haven't moved towards it. You haven't been open to receiving it. And that's what a lot of, like, the whole concept of this book about tuning into abundance tuning, is that you got to be open to receiving it. You have to tune in to exactly what it is you want. And that's where this comes into play, is you're never going to have what you want unless you can imagine having what you want. And again, that goes back to the same thing. I don't know how many times I see people say, I want this, I want that, and I want this. Well, why don't you have it? Oh, well, because of this and because of that, and because of this. Well, you're imagining all the wrong things. Like if your bank account says zero in it, well, you're imagining that it'll never have big numbers in it. If you want to have $1 million in your bank account, you have to imagine $1 million, and you got to get emotionally involved with it. And then you must start taking action. And this is where we're going to get into some of the higher faculties, and you're going to start to see that you can have $1 million in your bank account. You just have to make a choice. So let's see what else this is. So the first faculty you want to put into high gear is your imagination, because that will be the architect of your future. Right? It
Yeah.
allows you to design your world. Right?
Yeah.
So the next higher faculty here that we're going to talk about is intuition. Do you have something you want to talk about that, or you want me to carry on? What would you? I like this part. This is something that I think I've gotten this down a little bit, where I'm kind of fine-tuned it, where I think my intuition is actually very strong.
Yeah.
I can see stuff, and I just answers come to me just like this now, like it's and it's fascinating because obviously I work with a lot of people all around the world. That's how you and I met originally. Then you turned out to be basically like a partner of mine, which is kind of an interesting transition, right? So one of us must have imagined that happening, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
One of us.
One of us did, or both of us did. I don't know. But when it comes to work, like again, when we're talking about intuition, I've mentioned it before to you, but probably not to anybody's listening to us right now. But there's times when I could be working with somebody and I'll say something that is exactly what that person needs to hear. And then I'll sit back and go, wow, where did that come from? Because I look back at what I said and I'm thinking, wow, that was like really good. And I'm thinking like, it didn't come from me. It came from this universe. It means I was using my intuition. I tuned in to the answer at the right time. Because when you get you do coaching, so when you get into an environment where you're working with somebody, the goal is to get them to where they want to go. It's got nothing to do with me. So when I'm listening to
Yeah.
somebody and I'm hearing what they're saying, and that's I'm tuning into the universe looking for advice. Now, some of that advice is something that I've already have, but that comes from experience. But if I don't have it, I also know that through my intuition, the answer will come. Like I try to make sure that, when I'm working with somebody, that no matter what kind of mood they're in when we first start, by the time they're done talking to me, they're in a better place. That's my goal. And then the key is to hopefully from understanding and the awareness of what we're sharing, that they will continue to live that way. So when they get to the end of the call, they're in a better place. Now, hopefully they start the next day in that better place and grow from there. That's the whole point. But intuition is the key. So it says your intuition, in some ways, the most important of all, is the one that can come to your aid when all others seem to be silent. The one most strong connection, the one, I need better light. Hang on a second, let me adjust this thing. There you go. Okay. The one most strongly connected to the realm of infinite consciousness, intelligence, and awesomeness, or awareness. Sorry, awesomeness is good though, awareness. Yet it is also the most elusive of the 6 gifts. As a result, it's often the least developed and least utilized. And I think that that's true, because I know a lot of people that I talk to, they just don't really quite get it. Like I always tell people too that, if you're trying to think of a solution, always go with the very first thing that comes in your mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's this universe. That's your connection to the universe talking to you and telling you what the first thing you should be doing. That second thought, which is probably going to be a split seconds later, is going to be your conditioning, your subconscious mind saying, that's not how we do things. Now, remember we just looked at the bank account and it says 0 in there. How do you think you're going to draw in the information to get to $1 million when we saw 0? Can you imagine what's going to happen in your life with 0 money in your bank account? You're going to have people calling you, wanting you to pay your bills and so on and so on. That's going to be the second thought. But that first thought might have been, hey, maybe if you did this. Well, that's the intuition. That's the universe talking to you through you and giving you direction. And the sad part again is nobody listens. We're too conditioned to look at the world through our 5 physical senses.
Yeah, that's true. And then it's interesting because everybody has the intuition
Yeah.
within them. Everybody has the intuition. This is something what you don't learn and what you don't get when you are older. Every human being has the intuition, especially in the childhood, and that's what's taken away from us. That's what they take away from all the children when the children come in school. The dreaming and the feeling in the stomach and the impulses.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
And
always
again, it's
the right decision when you do it in common with your intuition.
you always, we talk about a lot that, our job is the what? The universe's job, or God, whatever you decide you want to refer to it as, their job, its job is the how. And you pick up the how through your intuition.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if your imagination has got you focusing on all the wrong things, or, if you're just plain not even thinking, which
Yeah,
most people don't, that's another thing, is most people don't actually think. They think, but they're not actually thinking. And I think it was Archibald McLeish. I think it's in here, as a matter of fact. Oh, yeah, it's right here, isn't it? Nope, that's not it. But anyways, somebody went on and said that 2% of the people think, 3% think they think, and 95% would rather die than think. So it's that 2%. It's the 2% are using their higher faculties.
yeah,
These gifts that were given to every single one of us, we all have it. But only 2% of the population is actually using it. The other 3% think they're using it.
yeah,
Right? They think they're smart and they got all the answers. Problem is
yeah,
they might have some answers, but they could have even more answers if they were open to receiving them, right?
yeah,
So it says here, intuition is a mental tool that enables you to plug into the communicate with infinite intelligence. That is what causes that gut feeling, like you were talking about, those hunches. And we
mm-hmm.
know how our intuition works. Extraordinary things that when we know how our intuition works, extraordinary things will begin to happen. Your intuitive factor picks up when spirit is talking to you. And I always like this part too, and I've said it many times, is we often say prayer is when we sit down and we talk to God. Well, understand that intuition is when God sits down and talks to you. But you got to be open to receiving it, right?
Yeah, yeah. And to get people in the receiving mode, I think that's wow, that's our exercise as a coach, to get the people in the receiving mode.
Yeah.
So,
even in the previous chapter on release, we do talk a lot about you got to let go of a lot of things, right? Because those are paradigms. They're conditioning, a conditioned way of feeling about things, how to see things, how to react to certain things. So if you're just simply getting triggered by the events in your life, you're not going to be using your intuition. You're not going to be hearing whatever God, or universe, the divine, whatever you want to call it, whatever it's saying to you, you're not going to hear it because the chatter in your mind is too busy with all this garbage that isn't going to take you anywhere. In fact, all it's going to do is keep you stuck right where you're at. But if you want a different life, you got to be willing to let go of all that garbage and just expect things to work out, because they will.
they will, yeah.
And if they're not working out, it's because of you, not anybody else. And that's the thing, that we want to blame our circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
You caused the circumstances, whether you want to admit it or not. You're responsible for those circumstances. And if you don't like them, you can change them. And you're going to need to use your higher faculties, these 6 higher faculties. You start with your imagination. What do you want it to look like? Not what does it look like. What do you want it to look like?
So I think the best way should be, somebody has a goal and is stuck in the circumstance, what you just said, that they meditate and visualize the whole day. That's really the best what the people can do at the beginning when they start to create a new life, that they really spend a lot of time in this different state of being and different state of thinking and diving into this higher faculty. And this is, most people don't understand the receiving mode is alignment. This is just alignment. This is when you are happy. This is when you're feeling good. And when people stuck in worry or doubt or fear or anxiety, whatever, that's exactly what they are sending out. So we are talking now about the language of the universe. And I think most of the people don't know what they are doing, because if you are thinking about something what could go wrong, or you think about the worst scenario, then you are in the vibration of anxiety. And that's exactly what the universe brings you back.
Yeah, you can have more of it. Right?
Yeah.
You're going to receive whatever you're asking for, and the asking is the vibration you're in. So that goes,
Absolutely.
again, from understanding this, then you're going to start to realize that, again, going back to the very first one of imagination, if you're imagining what's going to go wrong, well, it's going to go wrong.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I think most people don't understand too, is that the universe is not making choices for you. It's allowing you to choose. It is actually, I always find that there is like a very loving side of all of this that is always trying to guide you to what's good. But you have free will.
Yeah.
So you don't have to go. You can go anywhere you want, and that's the problem. But we imagine the things we don't want. And then the sad part is you can use your intuition to gain information on how to make sure your life basically sucks, because it already does,
Yeah.
right? And that's what people do, right? So it says here, intuition is where spirit and intellect become partners. When you connect to infinite intelligence and maintain that connection, there's a pure flow of genius to you. Think about it. There's nothing that needs to be answered. There's nothing out there that doesn't already exist. You just have to tune into the answer, and that's what your intuition is for. So the mind of infinite intelligence feeds us, and it gives us everything we want. It's a mixture of mental and spiritual. It goes on to say here, see your intuitive factor as being a receiver. It is a receiving receptacle in your conscious mind, and it is working all the time, picking up vibrations. It is picking up guidance and answers from universal intelligence. The answer is always there automatically. All the knowledge there ever was or ever will be is 100% evenly present in all places simultaneously, all the time. So if it's not coming into you, it's because you're not listening.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's not because you're not worthy. It's not because you're not smart. It's got nothing to do with any of that. It has to do with you're not listening. Mm-hmm. And this goes back into some of the stuff we've already been talking about, paradigms. So the answer is always there, but most will with their intellect. And that's the problem, because you can't figure out something with your intellect if you've never done it before. Now you can go and you can ask people who have done it, might give you some good information, but the reality is if you just keep plugging along, you're going to be led into the right direction. So
yeah, and that's with the part with the will. I always say my clients, I had a few clients and they were stuck and they didn't come in the process at all. And they asked me, why is this the way it is? And I said, how important is the goal for you? How much do you want to reach the goal? And that's the will, what we are talking about here in this chapter. Mm-hmm. If you are not committed that you gonna go that way, that you're gonna reach the goal, if the will is not strong enough, you're never gonna reach it.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah. You have to want it, no matter what comes and no matter what happens. And that's what I said at the beginning. If you want to control something, you are controlled. This is the most people want to control their outer world, and they want to control other people, and they want to control a situation, and they want to control a circumstance. But as soon as they get into the state of controlling, they are controlled. And that's when they get stuck. Nothing happens when you want to control something in your outer world. You do nothing. You can't control anything and everything.
No, you can stay focused, but you can't control it.
Focused. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Focus is the solution, and the will. So the will, how important is it for me? How much do I really want it? And am I really committed?
Yeah.
Yeah, that I want to reach this.
Are you willing? Are you willing to stick with it?
Are you
That's
willing?
the key, right?
Yeah.
So the will gives you the ability to hold that picture to the exclusion of anything else. And we refer to that act as concentration. When you concentrate on the good that you desire, you penetrate the depths of your subjective or your subconscious mind. You have created a passageway when the power where the power flows into your consciousness. It immediately moves into form and of the image that you are holding. Now, what you are doing is going to spirit or universal intelligence for power, for energy to create the image of the good that you desire. So it's an important thing. Will is an important thing. It's, I remember that's in there too when John F. Kennedy went to Werner von Braun, the German rocket guy from World War II, actually from your neck of the woods, right?
Yeah.
John F. Kennedy said, what would it take to put a man on the moon? And Werner von Braun's answer was the will to do it. Right. And that's the fascinating thing. And the other thing too is, I remember, I don't think it's in here. I can't remember if I put it in there or not, but when you looked at that particular rocket that did put a man on the moon, it's off course 99% of the time. Right. It goes off course, back on course, off course, back on course, off course, back on course. See, if you have the will to be on the moon, you're going to keep adjusting. And that's really what that, obviously it's done internally. It's some kind of, wonderful mechanisms that I have no idea about. But that rocket takes off, it's already going in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
If it just keep going, it's not going to go anywhere near the moon. But it keeps adjusting. Why? Because they had the will to do it. They found out a way. And if you go back to intuition, no one has ever put a man on the moon before. How did they do that? Part of it is intellect, like again, we're talking about somebody who has experience with rockets. But it wasn't rockets to put people on the moon. It was rockets that drop bombs on London, England, and places like that. Right. So the reality is they had to use their intuition to allow this universe, God, to guide us and show us how. And that's the thing is, if you look at all the wonderful things that we've been able to accomplish, there's no way we could have accomplished it without people using their intuition and the will to make it happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Like electricity, like the light bulb.
Light bulb, exactly, right. Everything. And it's interesting too, like, if you look back at the last 100 years, we've done more in the last 100 years than we've done in our entire existence. Why?
Yeah.
Because we're ascending, we're starting to open up, and we're starting to understand. I don't know if everybody actually understands, but we're using things that we didn't realize we even had. And we're able to do things on a regular basis. Like, even, we were talking about this the other day about, cell phones, things like that. Like every time you turn around, there's another new gadget. Like I was just getting used to the old gadget. Now they're telling me there's a new one. Like that's how fast people are moving these days, which is, I think it's fantastic. It's, I'd be kind of interested to see even like 20 years from now. Where are we 20 years from now? Where are we 2 years from now? Like things are going to be different just even 2 years from now. It's fascinating stuff. So what's our next one?
Oh, the next one is the memory.
Yeah.
This is a gift. This is really great because we all have an excellent memory. We remember so many things, and the subconscious mind, our subconscious mind is a perfect memory place. We remember everything. Everything is stored in our subconscious mind. And that's what we all have, a good memory. People say, okay, the Alzheimer, maybe there are some issues. you have with the memory. But so I think it's
Even, if you think
also,
about it, even somebody with Alzheimer's, uh, their memory is still perfect. It's just
yeah,
pulling that memory up and using it. Well, there's something going on. It's got more to do with
yeah,
something physical. There's a disconnect between the memory and your brain processing that
mhm.
information. So it doesn't mean that they don't have a perfect memory. Like it's
No,
just,
everybody has a perfect
yeah.
memory.
Now you can strengthen it. Some get weak because people don't use it. And then you got I think that a lot of times there's emotional things going on that cause us not to want to remember things,
Hmm.
right? But the reality is
That's a big part. That's important because that's what I experienced. It's many people that they don't want to remember special things.
yeah,
And
and
why? Because they were emotional involved in
sure.
situations.
There could be traumas in their life, or they could have bad experience in relationships, bad experience with employment, all kinds of
Yeah,
things, and then you don't want to remember. And then
yeah,
again, we go back to imagination a little bit. Like you think about relationships. You know,
yeah,
that's something that, especially if it's a bad relationship, people don't want to let go of it. They want to keep rehashing the same problem over and over again. And then they imagine that they're never going to find the right person. And guess what? They won't.
they won't. No.
And again, if you go back through some of the things that we talked about in the book already, uh, they're more likely going to just keep repeating what they've been conditioned. Like, if with somebody that's isn't nice, well, it's probably because you grew up in an environment where somebody, when you were young, wasn't nice.
Yeah.
So even though you don't like it, it actually feels normal. Again, that's a person that's not thinking. They're not imagining a perfect life. They're not imagining that perfect partner.
Hmm.
They're just expecting that everybody's the same because they don't know any different. But it's not true. You can imagine a perfect relationship, and your intuition will guide you to whatever needs to be done. You're going to find in most cases it's got more to do with you than anybody else. You got to be, you got to condition yourself to feel worthy of a happy, healthy relationship. But if you don't, you're going to keep imagining something else, right?
And that's when so many people start with this sabotage program, with the self-sabotage program.
Yeah.
That's they have the intuition, they feel it that this is the right path, that's the right direction, but they do anything and everything to not do it just because of the self-sabotage. And that's the paradigm again. That's how they are conditioned to think and to see how everything has to work out.
Mhm.
But also these people have the intuition, but they don't trust the intuition. So it's important for those people that they know the intuition is always the right decision. If you get an impulse and you have your intuition, you get an idea, then just do it. Just go that way. Yeah.
And even going back to the idea of relationships, a lot of times, you can meet somebody brand new and your intuition is telling you this person's not right.
Yeah.
But yet your subconscious conditioning is saying, well, I'm comfortable with this type of person. Right. It's kind of fascinating that, I think it goes back to what we were just already talking about, was the idea that you should always go with your first thought.
Hmm.
Okay, that's your intuition talking. That's the universe talking to you, telling you this is the direction you should go.
Yeah.
Then the second thought is your subconscious mind saying, oh, but we've never done that before. That's not how we do things. And then you ignore it. When the reality is, if you just went with your first thought, you're going to find that you're going to have a much better life. And it goes back into even when you talk about successful people, they make quick decisions and they change their mind very rarely, if at all, because they know that the first thought is usually the right one. And it always is. And even sometimes if it doesn't look like you're going to end up in the right place, you still are, because it's probably a place that you're going to learn something from that's going to take you to where you need to go. That's
Mhm.
the thing. Again, people get so caught up on, oh, well, that's not how we do things. That's not how I feel. And that's, I'm used to this type of behavior. And then I get caught up in it and they wonder why it keeps happening. Because you're
Mm.
causing it, right? It goes back to
Yeah.
chapter 1. You cause your reality. Right? So that leads to the next one,
Everything,
right?
we cause everything. Yeah, that's true. And relationships is really great. Yeah. I have it. I heard it a lot of times in the past from my clients. I had many young ladies, and they were seeking the soulmate and the perfect partner. And they met guys and young men. And really, this is so interesting when the false self comes up and starts to talk. No, this is not the right one. No, you can't do that. No, ended up stop it. And when they stopped, and then they asked me, so I don't know why I did it. That's always the same. That's the self-sabotage program.
Which, it's interesting. The conversation we're having here leads to the next higher faculty, which in here is reason.
Yeah.
And, it says here in a few paragraphs down, thinking is our highest function and is with our inductive reasoning factor that you think. It's the most incredible tool that you have. Every great leader has been in unanimous agreement that we become what we think about. Trying harder is not going to make it better. Most of the time, it actually makes it worse. Right. And this is when we start talking about, if you've got an idea that comes to you, but then your subconscious comes along and tries to talk you out of it. You
Yeah.
can reason with that thinking and say, you know what? We've done it like that in the past. Let's try it some other way. And that's what's going to cause you to see something new in your life. That goes even when you talk about relationships. If you've had nothing but a series of bad relationships, well, it's you that's causing it. That doesn't mean you deserve it. I don't want people to think that we're talking about, you deserve to be treated poorly or you deserve to have someone that you can't trust or whatever's going on. It's not about that. It's got nothing to do with blame. It's about understanding. And that's where reasoning comes in. You reason with the thinking and start to realize that I'm probably the cause here. Yes, that person is not a good person. But why am I with that person? And why is it the person before that wasn't a good person either?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're causing, right? And this is where you can start to reason with the thinking and start to make different decisions, right? See, there's no answers.
Absolutely.
I was going to, there are no answers for any questions you have. There is, there is an answer for any question that you have. There is a solution for any position you are facing, and the answer will be right there or right here, according to your willingness to make them welcome by tuning into the vibration that makes them welcome. You and I are infinite beings, external, sorry, I'm having a hard time reading this thing, external souls. You are a spiritual being having a human experience, and no matter what you need, the universe has your solution. The universe is right where you are. And again, that goes back to is you have to be open to receiving this information. It's again, when you're using your reasoning factor, it gives you the ability to really think of, okay, this is what I'm thinking, but that thinking is from your conditioning. And
Yeah.
then you're being led in another direction, which is probably the direction you should go. And you have to reason with that and say, okay, you know what? This wasn't working. So I'm not going to listen to that anymore. I'm going to try something new. You reason with the thinking that's going on and you make a different decision. Most people don't.
Yeah. Yeah. A reason, I connect the reason in this chapter also with the reason why do I want to reach the goal? Why do I want to have the new life? Why do I want to have the new partner? And that's what I do with my clients. That's a question I always ask them. Why do you want to have that? What emotion comes up? And that's for me a very big part and the most important part. We talked about it. um, your thoughts are sending everything out to the universe, and with the emotions, we draw everything to us in our reality. And
Yeah,
if you are in the right vibration, this is all connected with the emotions. And when you know why you want to have the new home, the new car, a big pile of money, and a new partner, your soulmate, when you know why you want to have this, um, then this is your reason why you go for it. That's for me the reason. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. So the gift of reason correctly applied is what will enable you to begin seeing the truth, seeing the amazing opportunities all around you, and start seizing these opportunities. You can make your dreams come true.
Yeah.
Okay, that's going to lead us to the next one on perception. It says here, in every moment of every day, you are actively using your gift of perception. The secret to unlocking the true power of perception involves shifting the way that you have used it. That may appear deceptively subtle and straightforward, but once you discover how to make the shift, be prepared to be amazed.
Absolutely.
And we even, we talk about this in the chapter on reality, even with that movie projector concept. Your perception is based on that film idea. Like, you're the pure white light through this old school type projector, and you're projecting a movie on the screen of your life. The problem is the film that you're projecting through is someone else's. It's someone else's perception of what the world looks like, what the world is, right? So you
Yeah.
have to change that. Your friend Wesley says hello to you and me, so I feel special now.
Ah, hi, Wes.
It's not just you this time, Karen. So I get a hello too. Thanks, Wes. Thanks, Wesley.
Yeah, the perception, this is something I do with my clients also in my coaching program, to change the perception, because what happens if you change your perception, you change your vibration.
Mhm.
And if you see things differently, you have a different vibration, because it's not the person that bothers you, it's just you perceive the person.
That's right.
It's
Yeah.
just how everybody sees the situation.
Yeah.
And if you perceive it from another place, if you make that shift, you also have the shift in the vibration.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
that's a big difference, yeah.
Yeah. That perception is really based on how you were conditioned to see the world.
Yeah.
You see it all the time, even in the news. Like, it's you can watch one channel and they're perceiving the news one way, and then you turn on to another channel and they're perceiving the news in a completely different way. Like,
Yeah.
one's right.
Hmm.
Right? You're gonna go with the one that is more in line with your vibration, your conditioning. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he says here, discover that there is a you to get to know. There is a you that has sorry, wait a minute. There's a you that has freedom. You can choose, create, and have dominion over materiality, call forth from the invisible realm, and shape an idea that is a thought form in your mind. So with reasoning, again, you get a chance to really kind of build whatever you want. Goes on to say, we're on perception, right? Did I jump ahead? No, we're talking about perception. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah. Perception. This is also a great paragraph here. Our perception creates our reality. It is how we see the situation. It's not the situation itself, it's how we see the situation. That's what I said. When you have a person and the person does anything or says anything you don't like, it's not the person, it's how you perceive it.
Yeah.
And that you can use that in every single situation in your life. And when we make a change in the perception, we make the change in the vibration. That's fascinating, because everything changes if you change your perception.
Mhm. I like this quote I put in here from David Simon. So reality is ultimately a selective act of perception and interpretation. Sorry. So reality is ultimately a selective act of perception and interpretation. A shift in our perception and interpretation enables us to break old habits and awaken new possibilities for balance, healing, and transformation. And so look at, when you look at a situation and realize it is neither bad nor good, it's just what it is. When your paradigm has you fixed on one point of view, you cannot see anything else. But as you grow and expand your level of recognition, expand your level of awareness, you will find a reciprocal expansion between the universe and your consciousness. You will have created an intimate companionship between yourself and your source of supply. It's a beautiful thing. So we have the ability to shift our perception. And when we do, the entire universe shifts with you.
Yeah, and I saw it with so many clients, and I know it from myself, from my experience. Every time I make this shift, sometimes minutes later, maybe 1 hour later, I had a manifestation. Because what happens if we change the perception, and that's also what I know by myself, and if you have not the right perception and you are not in the right vibration, you have the resistance inside. There's something inside that works against you and against your goal. Mm-hmm. When you change the perception, the resistance goes down. And that's what makes you free for the higher faculties. That's when you get the impulses, that's when the intuition comes in. And I know it from myself, and this is fascinating because I tried it a few days ago. I made my visualization at noontime, and maybe it was 2 p.m. And I was sitting there maybe for 45 hours. It was just a good feeling. I didn't want to go out of this visualization. And I can tell you, 3 hours later, the manifestation was here.
Yeah.
And that's so fascinating. That's what I tell all the people. You have to do it. You have to try it.
Yeah.
Not to make the manifestation come true. For the feeling. The people have to do it for the feeling. Because I think when we are during the visualization or meditation, if we are in the right state and we can feel it, and it feels so good that we don't want to come out of the visualization, then the manifestation comes for sure.
Yeah. Again, it's the understanding and awareness of everything we're talking about here that's going to make the difference. A lot of wonderful things are happening for you because you understand the material that we're talking about. Same thing with me. Like we're constantly creating something brand new all the time.
Yeah.
And that's because, I have a vision. I've used my imagination of what I would like to see happen. And I'm open to receiving how. Do I get times when, my subconscious kicks in and says, what are you doing? Who do you think you are? All the time. But I can choose to see something different, and I do.
Yeah.
I reason with my thinking, and I change my perception of the situation. And then guess what? Wonderful things start to happen. Like I think it says right here on, let's see, I think I just saw that. As you shift your perception, your life will be shifted.
Yeah.
And it is. Like I can go back to when I was young and driving a bus. Like I had a different perception then than I do now. I had a perception that, I perceived that was the way to get through life, was you find a job that paid you every week and paid your benefits and gave you a pension. And, that was how I perceived the world.
Yeah.
I was never taught about the idea you're supposed to follow your passions. I never taught about the idea that, what about being happy? I had to learn that outside, and I changed it. I changed my perception of how the world is supposed to be.
Yeah.
So he says, This is Wayne Dyer says, when you change the way you look at things,
Yeah.
the things you look at change.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that statement. Yeah. And that's so important, the work, and that's also so important to have a mentor.
Yeah.
And that's yeah.
You
I
can do
learned a lot with you when you worked with me, and I can tell that everybody, it's so important to have somebody who takes you by the hand and shows you all your blind spots, because we can't see them all. That's not possible. We have always some blind spots, and that's why it's so important to have somebody who looks to the situation from a different perception. Yeah,
Yeah,
perspective. Just that we can change our perspective and perception. This is wonderful, and then everything changes in the outer world. Yeah, but
absolutely.
we have to change it inside.
Got to start inside. Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's the thing is, people can say they want change, but they're not really necessarily willing to do the work.
yeah,
And
they are not willing. Yeah,
and then guess what? Nothing really changes.
yeah,
Like I get people all the time, they tell me about all these wonderful books that they read. And I know people that read a lot of books and they have changed their lives, but I know a lot of people that read a lot of books and not much changes. And that's because they're not really willing to do the work that's necessary. Like you have to be willing to let go of all the stuff from the past. You got to
yeah,
let go of what you have perceived to be true in the past. Because again, if your results are not what you expect them to be or want them to be, it's because of you. And again, I don't want people to think that, that's got to do with blame or guilt or anything like that. It's just got to do with understanding and awareness. It doesn't matter what's gone on in the past. You can start today and build whatever life you want. And using your higher faculties and understanding your higher faculties is the key to a lot of all this. In fact, maybe to all of it. You really have to be willing and open to using your higher faculties. And again, most people don't even know we have them. Now, you can
yeah,
say the words imagination, you can say the word perception, and you can say the word will and reason. You can say those words, but most people don't really understand what they are. As we're wrapping up,
no,
just go ahead.
the saying, I want this, I want to change my perception, and I will do this, and I use my imagination, and I'm willing to use my intuition. That's not the work. The work is inside, to feel it. And that's what I meant when I told you from the story, when I made the visualization and 3 hours later I had the manifestation. It's enough if you sit down and you connect with the universe and you feel it just only one time. And that's enough. And that's when the manifestation comes into your life.
Yeah.
But that's the work, to train the body to the feeling, to the emotion. If you can feel it, you're gonna not create it. You're not gonna see it.
It's not going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as we're wrapping up, I'll just recap them. So we've got imagination. I like this part. Someone said it's the greatest nation in the world. Imagination. Intuition. I've always loved the thought that prayer is when we talk to God. Intuition is when God speaks to us. Intuition will guide you in your life. It will ensure you go down the right road to a brilliant future every single time, but only if you're listening.
Yeah.
The will gives us the ability to hold one idea on the screen of our mind to the exclusion of all outside distractions. Now, memory is such a beautiful tool. It is the ability to access and retrieve information that allows us to use these memories to make decisions, interact with others, and solve problems. Reason is, without question, what separates us from all the rest of the animal kingdom, because we can think. The rest of the animal kingdom is just reacting. Right? And then perception allows you to be the architect of your future rather than the victim of circumstances. You have the choice to proceed in every situation, no matter how dire it may seem. The universe is seeking greater, freer, fuller, expanded expression of itself everywhere, meaning through you. A greater life is seeking to express itself through your dreams, your ideas of possibility. Those ideas that come to you are precious, seeking expressions for you to give your gifts to the world, and without you, they are not complete. So it's completely up to you, right? So on the bottom, down the bottom here, it just says all 6 of these gifts have always been and are with you. And that's something that I think people don't really quite understand. You've always had them. It's not something you have to get. What it is you have to understand them and then develop them. And you're going to develop them by simply understanding it, right? So these gifts give you positive creative power over your outcomes. These higher faculties give you the knowledge, awareness, and power to tune into the abundant life that has to offer you. The abundance you deserve and the abundance that is your birthright. We're all born with the opportunity to live whatever life we want to live. And the problem is we're usually trying to live someone else's life. And that never works. You're never going to be happy living someone else's life. So again, with this, I highly recommend this is a chapter you want to read a couple of times to really try to get an understanding of your higher faculties, because it's these higher faculties that are going to make a difference. You have to be willing to use them the way they're designed to be used. The problem is we're usually using them for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Right? So any further thoughts before we take off?
Yeah, I just want to repeat it here, this one statement from Archibald MacLeish. The only thing about a man that is a man is his mind. Everything else you can find in a pig or a horse.
That's
And
it.
I love this statement. So I really can tell to everybody, use your mind and create the life you want to live.
Create a wonderful life, and you can.
A wonderful life.
So those who are watching, if you tomorrow on Wednesday we do our Elevate Roundtable. That's you have to register for that. It's kind of a closed meeting, and you can join us again by registering. And when you register, you'll actually get a link to the Zoom call, so you can actually join us. And it's an open conversation with most of the people from the Elevate Network and others from all over the place. So hopefully, if you're available tomorrow at 3 p.m., come check us out on the roundtable. And then Thursday, we have the Think and Grow Rich call. I can't remember what chapter we're on. What chapter are we on? I forget. Is it decision or something like that? Or I forget.
No, we had decision already.
That was last week. Yeah.
That was last week. Yeah.
Anyways, we'll be doing something on Thursday with Think and Grow Rich. There's the 4 of us. So hopefully you can join us. Again, we'll be back here at the same place through the Zoom call here that will go live. So hopefully we see everybody then. And again, anybody who's been joining us, there's quite a few people who have left messages. So I want to thank you all for joining us, and thank you to the beautiful Karin Gatternig, all the way from Austria. I would love to be able to hold your hand and take you down whatever road you wanted to go, but it's a long way away to be holding your hand.
Thank you, Lee. It's so great. Thank you. Thank you for everyone who joined us. And I hope I see you all next week again.
Take care.
Bye.